Hey, so today was a good day, and I know I didn't upload like yesterday, and I wait. Today's like Friday, right? I think it was only like one day, but here I am, chilling. Watched my nephew, talked to my best friend. It was very calm, relaxing, and nice. And now I do know the um episode of Sun Wukong was dropped, so we're gonna get into that. It is late at night. It's like finna be two minutes away from two. But the energy's gonna come later. But we're just here to chill and take a breath away from like reality, have some fun. So let me link it over. Yeah, I'm hot, burning up. Okay, there it is. Like the whole thing like reset, so I just fixed all that like right now. But y'all don't need to know that. Y'all don't need to know that. Let's get into the video. What are you doing, Mama? Sorry, never mind. Just distractions and stuff like that. I was trying to do something. I think I'm gonna twist all my hair before I get it all cut off and stuff because I wanted to figure out something to do with it. For real, just going through the motions, man. I got some stuff to do. All right, let's get into this video. And here we go. Wait, let me fix his audio. There it is. You know we need max quality. All right. Wait, there are people doing work, so we're gonna keep it calm, chill, classy, demure, like always. And there was some like I think y'all couldn't hear me last time or something like that, so I'm gonna keep it a little bit quieter, anyways. And like I'm not sure y'all can hear, but there's like some peaceful music going on, so it's gonna be a really nice, calming one this time, especially because like I was gone for like a bit. Hey,
We have
there's not
one
any
more video
gonna be
of
forbidden.
Black Myth Wukong left. The journey that took us a little longer than the average Let's Play playthrough, whoever. Doesn't matter, we do animes here, so who cares? But it's almost over, bro. And I still don't understand some things about this game. Unlike Elden Ring, there's things that you could kind of pick up as the story goes. But in Black Myth Wukong, there's a little bit of a prerequisite that you should have beforehand. Now, the game gives you a journal, which is an amazing way to get that information. But if you paid attention to the last time we talked about, you know, this type of video, I'm dyslexic. I don't tend to do the journal because what I'm gonna take back from it is gonna seem like something when I project it to you, but it's not sticking. It's not sticking. All right, so I have a fantastic way to learn the game. I don't know if I'm going to do this for all the chapters, but Bandit Games had made an amazing like explanation of the first chapter so well. I kind of just had to spin the block when he uploaded chapter 2's explanation of everything that took place that kind of really slipped past my mind. Now, I did mention I was on the fence about doing something like this again because I don't quite like the idea of taking views away from the creator, but you guys did an amazing job showing love on the first two videos we reacted on when we did this last. Bro, let's just do it again, bro. Let's spread like some positive stuff from my community to theirs, and hit the like button not only here but over there too. The link to the full videos in the description down below. And yeah, if you guys want me to do this too on Elden Ring, just, you know, why not? I haven't done that really yet. I don't know why I haven't. 15k likes, 24 hours, and I'll lock that in as well because there's a lot with that one I just missed. But anyways, let's watch, bro. Already got a movie here, and I gotta leave to the airport in a second, so we'll see how this works.
He basically worked for it, but we work for it too.
Oh, we got an intro now. Hold on. Let's not have it go over my head. I'll read it for y'all because we talked about this. Alas, what is a grain of truth in a desert of tales? When the truth finds the light, it is often because some prefer an audience blind to the rest of the story. It is often because
kind of mid with that one. Let me see what I got. Alas, what is a grain of truth in a desert of tales? When the truth finds the light, it is often because some prefer an audience blind to the rest of the story.
Some prefer an audience blind to the rest of the story. That last part, oh, he knew that was me. He knew that was me, bro. Bandit Games presents. Oh, Buddy got production now. Okay. Wait, excuse me. Black Myth Wukong. Oh, this got me excited. Wait a minute. Spoiler alert. Who read the book? Come on.
More of the arms.
All right, do something, bro. Calm down.
Hello, my friends of
ready.
the internet, and welcome back to the complete story and lore explanation of every boss in Black Myth Wukong. Or if this is your first time, welcome. We'll be focusing
It's not my
on
first
the
time. We've been here
backstories
before, right, Jet?
as well
What's
as
up?
in-game events of every boss in Chapter 2, called Yellow Sand, Desolate Dusk, which takes place in the desert region known as the Yellow Wind Ridge. And let me
Right.
tell-
Telling us about like the Yaguai and stuff like that, and the backstory and the meaning of them. But although it was the first chapter, so they were kind of mid. But like the other ones, like the White Dragon and stuff, those I want one about those. Like someone telling us something about the better one, but I know a little bit about them, so I'll try and tell y'all in a later video.
you, if you liked the stories of the bosses of Chapter 1, oh boy, are you going to like Chapter 2. There's heartbreak, nuanced morality, heroic ambitions,
Okay.
dog murder,
So-
you name it.
Just so we're on the same page with what I understood of this chapter, from my understanding, once upon a time, the tigers were on top. There was like a few of them. There was a Mad Tiger. There was a Vanguard Tiger. I believe those are they were brothers, and who they once were to who they ended up being when the rats came through and kind of were on top of things. Like the new pecking order kind of placed them not only lower where they once were, but their caricature and their description of who they are also went down a different path. But I'm guessing because of the things that transpired for when the rat became on top. Now that's just the roughest explanation that I remember on the top of my head, but
And
keep on
yes,
going.
that last one is every bit as sad as it sounds. If you missed my video covering Chapter 1's bosses though, please feel
didn't.
free to check that one out after you're done here. I'll have it linked in the description below. By the way, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to all of you for the amazing turnout on Chapter 1's video. All
Yeah,
of
that
your
video
likes
went
and positive
crazy, bro.
comments and new
That was cool to
subscribers
see.
made this bandit's heart very full. And on that note, if you want to see the other chapters explained as well, make sure you're subscribed to stick around for when they drop. Before
Bro.
we get into the bosses of
think
Chapter
that's
2
cool,
though,
Okay.
I do have one correction to make regarding my previous Black Myth video. If you've seen it, then you know that I made the claim towards the end of the video that the white-clad noble was the Bearguai's resurrected white serpent scholar friend who
Yeah, it was like a
Wukong had killed in the
hypothetical he
novel.
made. Because
This is incorrect, as several commenters
Oh.
very politely pointed out to me. He's actually another character entirely, and his similarities to the Bearguai's old serpent friend are simply coincidental. We actually do
Oh,
know
okay.
who he is, as well as who his brother is that he referred to several times. However, the answer to his identity actually lies in a much later boss's explanation. One
Really?
Erlang Shen, who's going to be the star of the Chapter 6 video, so for the time being, I won't be covering that just yet. For now,
connected
I
to
just
Erlang
wanted you to know
Shen.
that the previous explanation of the white
He has a
clad noble
spear,
is
so-
not actually accurate. Anyway, with my
makes
mistakes
sense.
out of the way, let's turn our focus to the Yao Guais of Yellow Wind Ridge. Just like
I
last
bet.
time, there are the main bosses that tend to be very interconnected with one another, and there are the minor bosses who sometimes are just as connected, but sometimes are a bit less so, and therefore much more easily understood on their own. So let's
The
start off
annoying
with the
toads,
most
bro.
independently understood minor bosses and work our way up. First up is the Earth Wolf, which may appear at first glance to
I
be
remember
some
that thing.
weird-looking, only slightly dog-like rock monster, but I will
Let's see-
assure you,
bro,
truly is
this thing was so stupid and minuscule. I want to see if he can make me care about this with his lore.
the goodest boy of all the good boys. Or at least it used to be before it got resurrected from death and took on this appearance. According
so
to the
it was
in-game
like a
lore,
dog.
once upon a time there was a general's son who served as a cruel and ruthless drill master over the soldiers in a barracks. The specific location of which is unknown, but due to the fact that there are no soldier stations in the Yellow Wind Ridge or remnants of army forces that I can tell from the environment, I'm going to assume that this story takes place elsewhere. Anyway, this drill sergeant was a hunter, and he had a dog that he would hunt with, an ancient Chinese breed known as the Shigo, which literally means slender or thin dog. These dogs
Oh,
are
wow.
sighthounds,
It's like a
which tend to
dog.
excel at hunting and have been around in real life for at least 2,500 years, and have
Okay.
always been very popular with Chinese nobles and denizens of dynasties.
Once was
In
a good
fact,
boy.
Some scholars believe that Erlang Shen's mythological dog that we see at the start of the game, known as the Zhaoshan Chon, or the Sky Barking Hound, is also a Chinese Shigo, but that's neither here nor there. Back to the
Got
drill
you.
master
Yeah,
though.
fuck that
After
dog.
one hunting session
I mean,
that ended up being completely
I think
unsuccessful unsuccessful, he ended up blaming his dog and ordered his other soldiers to beat his dog to death. This
Bro.
made the soldiers very uneasy.
He is spitting, but I gotta put my little something on there. So it's like this ancient dog from like a long time ago, and it's so ancient that the Egyptians depicted the deity Anubis after him, and it's so awesome. That's actually the dog that I want. Like in the future, if I can breed it, I want it to have like I don't know if it's heterochromia. I think this is when they're two different ones, but that's not what I want. I want the crystal one. I forgot what they call it, but yeah, that dog is awesome, and that's what that Chinese dog looked like. This one.
My
Being completely unsuccessful, he ended up blaming his dog and ordered his other soldiers to beat his dog to death. This
Bro.
made the soldiers very uneasy,
my
and
gosh.
none of them wanted to do it, but as they had their orders, they did exactly what they were ordered to do and beat the dog to death, burying it in a field behind their barracks that just so happened to be
bruh.
covered in lungshi mushrooms. The soldiers would even go out to the grave at night and chant sutras for the poor dog so that its soul could rest in peace, which would end up having other consequences. As time went on, the drill master would begin to hear barking outside at night. Obviously, this was a problem as he had ordered his dog to be killed, so he would continually send men out to investigate, who each would return with nothing. It kept happening night after night though, so eventually he went out himself to investigate the barking. Eventually, he finally heard and recognized it as coming from underneath the ground, from the grave.
Oh,
of his
bro. Okay. Now this is actually
He's
kind
a
of
dog
sad,
lover for sure.
bro. Okay, now I'm thinking too much about an actual dog, which I get this is supposed to be on a story referencing that dog that then became mythologically this thing. But hear me out, bro. There's one aspect of dogs that always like gets me. It's like a dog. So for instance, let's say you got a dog, right? You step on his foot and you're like, oh, I'm so sorry. My fault. Mwah, mwah, mwah. The dog doesn't know that you're apologizing. The dog doesn't even know that it was an accident. That motherfucker just know you stepped on him and he's just trying to figure out, hey, are we good? We good? Bro, the concept of a dog getting beat to death is like that hurts my brain because the dog doesn't even know what's happening. It's like, yeah, I'm getting hurt. But what are you doing? Master, help. Just looking at him the whole entire time. So just imagine the dog got beat to death, then wakes up kind of in pain, but underground, dark, can't breathe, whatever. Just like, hey, dad, I'm sad. I'm overthinking it, bro. I'm overthinking it. I'm sorry.
He put a
dog. He then ordered his men to dig up the Shigo's corpse, and much to everyone's surprise, the hound was alive again and jumped out of the grave. But now it was different. Its skeleton was exposed in some areas
Because they
its
prayed
feet
for it.
and
They powered
tail,
it up.
and it had fused with the lungshi mushrooms, which made it grow root-like tentacles over its arms and neck. It also had
wow.
two very hard mushrooms growing on its head that acted like antlers. When the drill master saw this undead monster, he was thrilled and called out to his dog, who recognized his master's voice and, still being the good boy that it always was, came joyfully bounding towards him. However, as he leapt into his master's arms, those antler-like hardened mushrooms on his head gored through the chest of the cruel drill sergeant, who bled out and died on the spot right then and there. The soldiers were so flustered in trying to save the life of the drill master that nobody even noticed that the earth wolf had run off, vanishing without a trace, eventually ending up right here in the Sandgate village of Yellowwind Ridge, where it was finally put to rest by the Destined One. Next up, we had a peculiar, kind of disgusting boss known as...
Like, if you think about it, like, bro, this dog, it's all hideous or whatever. Like, after you know the lore, you're like, damn, bro, like, that dog didn't even deserve that. It did get dang. But like, okay, and then Wukong fighting him while the guy's telling the story. This dude Wukong is evil. He treated his best friend like nah, bruh. He didn't have to do that to his best friend. If you watched it, if you didn't, hey, you just gonna have to go look it up somehow. I don't know. It's kind of like I made like a video and stuff, but that was messed up. And then Wukong beating this dog. He's cool though. I mean, he's him.
as the gore.
I'm low key blown back how that I cared about that dog, bro. Maybe it's because of the dog. All right, so far we're 1-0. We're 1-0. I cared about that one. That one. If I'm gonna rank, let's get a little ranking system, bro. That story, hella bias, but I'm putting it in A tier. I have a dog. Shut up. I don't care what you say. I was in there, bro. I was rooting for him to get out when he was in the ground. That's A tier. That's an A tier character.
I don't even know.
I Taoist. And in case you were wondering, the word Taoist is used many times in Chinese culture and refers to an individual, normally a monk.
Now, in case it doesn't even come out or anything. Okay, so it's a dog story and like it's like a sad story, bro. So I mean, I'm gonna just share here. We're talking about the dogs and everything.
Monk, who is interested in or otherwise follows the understandings
Fire
and
Zelda
worldview
music.
of the Tao, also known as the Tao, roughly translated in English as the way or the path. Taoism is an ancient Chinese philosophy and religion, first introduced to the world by Lao Tzu around 500 BC, that in a very brief nutshell entails the belief that all nature must be balanced and humans as well as animals should strive to live in said balance. Like I said, that's an extremely brief nutshell explanation, and the fact that the gore-eyed Taoist is called a Taoist doesn't really matter for his story in the game all that much, but hey, now you know. Anyway, once upon a time, this Taoist, who trained in the mystic arts upon Mount Lingtai, arrived at a temple known as the Temple of Yellow Flowers, which is actually a location with a bunch of other lore associated with it that we'll be getting to in Chapter 4. He waltzed up to the place and literally demanded that the master of the temple submit and yield to him the secret of the temple, which again we'll be getting to in Chapter 4. That's 2 videos.
So let me get this straight. Buddy just had like extreme entitlement and just straight up demand. Okay. So
from now, did I mention that you should be subscribed? Long story short, he was every bit as helpless as he sounds and was captured immediately by a very powerful Yao Guai chief known as the Commander Beetle, after which he was subdued within a cocoon sack. A few days later, he was able to break out of his sticky situation though, but oddly enough, when the master of the temple was told about this, the master just responded with a smile, knowing that the Taoist's fate was already sealed. The Taoist noticed that ever since he was placed within the cocoon, there just so happened to be a weird fleshy growth on his back that, get this, had a bunch of eyes sprouting out of it. Now, most of us...
Okay, I think he's telling us about like these weird little monsters now. So the dog story already ended. Okay, so like at this point, bro, that dog is relatable. It didn't deserve it, and I was like young, and I would go and see my dad all the time in Louisiana. It's a little place, and he had so many dogs, like a lot of dogs, take him hunting and stuff. And I'm just watching him. He's taking ticks off of him and everything. I'm like, yo. And that's the first time I saw big ticks. And I was like, yo. I still didn't even understand the difference between ticks and fleas and stuff like that. I'm like, bro, okay, I'm just seeing them kill these. I'm disgusted. I'm like, bro, let me go back. And then basically, I see the dog, like how sick, like, I'm like, yo, they look kind of like malnourished, bruh. And then so that year's over. I'm like, oh, okay. So let's say that there was 20 dogs in that kennel. 20 dogs. I know it's a lot of dogs. And then that summer goes by because I would go there for the summer. And then it's next year. I think I'm in school, or I went back, and I'm like, oh, okay. All the dogs and stuff, they were not there. I went and saw one dog, right? And the part I didn't tell you is there was only like one dog that was sick when he told me that and everything. I was like, oh yeah. He's like, oh yeah, she's been sick and stuff. So there was one dog that was sick, and it was a girl. I go there the next summer. All 19 dogs died. All those bro. And they were all on a hill. 19 dogs on a hill. Well, 20 dogs on a hill. 19 died. Crazy. I know. Depressing. Like this story. Like he was telling everything. And that dog that was sick got them all sick. And then later on, the dog died. The end. Conclusion. That's my story for this video. Yeah, I know it's very depressing. I just had to
find that at least mildly alarming, but Mr. Taoist didn't think too much of it and continued onward with his wandering to and fro. He probably thought it was a bunch of zits or something. Anyway, one day he arrived at a desolate mountain and upon seeing villagers struggling and bandits running wild, decided to settle down and begin using his mystic arts to perform several miracles over the next several years, such as summoning rain and lots of lush greenery. And he was even able to enter the bandits' hideout and preach the wisdom of Taoism to them, which resulted in them forsaking their evil bandit ways and coming down from their hideout to live among the villagers in peace. This
Okay,
continued
he's
on
working.
for years until one day when the Taoist, under a strange kind of trance, walked into the village again and raised a ritual staff at its entrance, which began to emit a blood-red light. Everyone who
That's
this
the
light
technique he
touched
did.
went completely blood-crazed, violently
Wow.
tearing into one another until every single one of the villagers was slaughtered, and the ground was filled with blood. Once this happened, the aforementioned fleshy eye hump on the Taoist's back opened up with its eyes all wide open and slurped up as much blood as it possibly could from the village slaughter. And when it couldn't slurp up anymore, it closed all of its eyes and closed back up, having grown significantly in size. The Taoist then regained his consciousness, which apparently he didn't have previously, after which he set off once again to find another place to settle, assumedly to, feed the gore eye hump on his back. Eventually, he ended up here in the Yellow
I
Wind Ridge,
guess.
and for some reason, I don't feel too bad about ending this particular Taoist's life.
Yeah, bro,
The
he
next
just
minor
went
boss
whack.
to cover is the Yellow
Or
Robes-
like crazy or whatever. Okay, we're gonna get the tier system as D is the lowest. We're not going below D. I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. I think that was kind of ass. I'm not a fan of that. I personally,
I don't
I
even
think
know what happened.
that it didn't make sense to me why Buddy was like, "Yep, I make it rain," and all of a sudden, "Yep, you're gonna go crazy." There's some holes,
gave
but
people
he
money
also
and
said we're gonna touch back on it on chapter 4.
There's already enough
So
for that.
if I make it that far, I'll figure it out. But that's D tier. That was D tier. He's not beating the dog. He's not beating the dog.
Fire, who actually has essentially the same backstory
this dude.
as the white-clad noble. In that, as I
Okay.
mentioned previously, he was also sent here by his brother, and his story is also closely related to that of Erlang Shen's in the game. He is a completely different character, though. In stark contrast to the tea and poems of the white-clad noble, the yellow-robed squire is more focused on beer and food, which,
Remember that?
makes sense since he's a pig. As far as his purpose in Chapter 2 is concerned, he arrived here in the Yellow Wind Ridge specifically to meet the Destined One and lead him to the kingdom of Sahali in the distant past,
The
where
secret
the Destined
area.
One encounters the old Tiger Vanguard, the Yellow
Yes.
Wind Sage, and a giant
Yes.
beetle Yao Guai known as Fubon, all of which have a ton to do with the lore of these bosses and will be explained a bit later on in the video.
Gotcha.
There are only 2 remaining minor bosses to cover, but they just so happen to be the second members of the Frog
care
and
for the
Dragon
frog.
Yao Guai bosses,
Yeah.
the
Don't
Frog
care.
being
D
Lang
tier.
Li Goba and the Dragon being Black Long, which both continue the overarching stories of the Frog and Dragon Yao Guais from the first chapter of the game, which are also present in every chapter. But
Okay.
again, I'll be covering those storylines in their entirety in another video, so for now, I digress. With the minor bosses out of the way, though, it's finally time to talk about the real reason you're here, the Yellow Wind Sage and his lackeys. Just like last time, since all the bosses are pretty interconnected with one another, we're just going to start off
Yeah, he
with
went
the
hard.
Wind Sage himself and weave his story into everyone else's along the way. The first thing we see in Chapter 2 is the Destined One all shot up with arrows, literally
Yeah,
just
that was.
waiting to die.
I think out
However,
of
before this
all
happened,
That's
of the
crazy.
starting chapters, that was the most jarring, bro. Because we went from chapter 1 thinking how this game was gonna go. Chapter 1 was mad linear, by the way. I think it's the most linear out of all of them.
Yeah.
And then you get to chapter 2, and Buddy just got clocked, and we're just like, did I miss something, bro? Like, it was insane. That start.
a wild headless singing monk appears, who in the English
Best
version
character.
randomly has a Scottish
S tier.
accent. Anyway, the lyrics of the headless musician's song already begin to tell the tale of the Yellow Wind Sage.
Yep.
And right off the bat, you can tell that the Wind Sage has a backstory that extends to, you guessed it, the novel Journey to the West, which I will be heavily drawing from for these stories. Once upon a time, long ago, there was a little yellow-furred mink, or mutton depending on who you ask, that lived at the base of
Not a
Vulture
fan.
Peak, which is the same destination that Wukong's group, led by the monk Tung Tsungtsung, was journeying to, as well as one of the favorite meditation retreats of the Buddha. The little mink
Okay.
meditated on
Yes,
the teachings
yes.
of Taoism and the way at the foot of the mount until it achieved a humanoid form, becoming
W?
a rat-like Yao Guai. The Yellow Guai ended up stealing some of the precious oil from one of the fragrant
That's how good the music is.
the Yellow Guai
Wait,
ended
when-
up stealing some of the precious oil from one of the fragrant Blossom precious candles
was
on
fire,
said
gang.
Vulture Peak, then tried to run away out of fear that some of the attendants there would capture him. He was
Ah.
unsuccessful in his escape, though, since the Buddha already knew of the
I know, I'm
thievery.
trying to lose-
However,
I'm so
the
sorry.
Buddha was not convinced that the rat Guai was worthy of
No,
death,
hey,
so he instead asked the
hey,
Bodhisattva
come
Lingji to instead capture the thief and simply banish him to the region that would eventually be known as the Yellow Wind Ridge,
That was the
sparing
headless
the Guai's
dude.
life on the condition that he would cease his thieving ways and of course not use the teachings that he learned from his time studying Taoism for evil. After this, the Bodhisattva and Rat Gwai became as master and disciple to one another, and the rat headed off towards the Yellow Wind Ridge for his banishment. But at some point, either before this or literally on the way to the ridge, he discovered and cultivated a new, unique power using the mystic arts, the ability to create and weaponize wind. But not just any wind. We're not just talking about your regular little dust devil out in the desert. The Rat Gwai's wind was so powerful that in the novel, it is said that when he used it, it could darken the earth and heavens above, and even disturb other characters in other parts of the world.
I would never have thought he was that strong.
Shen, who lost his way to Guangzhou town, or Li Jing, whose pagoda was blown right out of his hand. It's said to be so strong that it can split rocks and human beings alike, and the only way to survive its blast would be to be a celestial immortal yourself. Or, you know, Sun Wukong. But we'll get to that later. The name of this magical, all-powerful wind was the Samadhi wind, with the word Samadhi being an ultimate concept appearing in Buddhism as well as other religions such as Hinduism or Sikhism. After the Rat Gwai developed this divine skill, he also met a nameless tiger Yao Guai, known only to us as the Tiger Vanguard. No, not that Tiger Vanguard, this Tiger Vanguard. That Tiger Vanguard is this Tiger Vanguard's son. And this is his brother. And this is their father. They're all bosses and will all be explained later in the video. Anyway, Daddy Vanguard swore loyalty to the rat and became his trusty servant slash henchman slash vanguard. After this, the rat sensed a great power slumbering within the kingdom of Sahali, and the two of them set off to find out more about this power. Sahali was ruled by the King of the Flowing Sands, another boss in the game, and is the kingdom in which the sun is said to set in the evening. Apparently, every day when the sun would set and dip beneath the western seas, the hissing sound of the great ball of fire hitting the water would grow to be so loud that it was powerful enough to actually kill the children of Sahali. So the Buddha, out of benevolence, gifted them.
Imagine getting boom blasted by someone who has too much a gain in their audio. You know what I'm saying? Like somebody's peaking in real life and your freaking ears pop and blow up, bro. That's actually crazy. Yo, that's a horrible way to die, bro. Oh my god.
With a large drum so that they could beat it every evening and neutralize the sound of the hissing setting sun. The people of Sahali in turn began to praise and worship the Buddha, who essentially had saved the lives of their children. But eventually this praise towards Buddhism began to overshadow.
Question. What is that in the back right there, bro? He's freaking me out. I can get down with what he's doing right there. He's looking presentable. Buddy is freaking me out, bro. I hate statues. Let's get past it.
For their own king. In retaliation, the King of Flowing Sands then outright banished Buddhism in Sahali, even going so far as to take down the temples that the people had begun putting up and banish monks who had settled there, and even change the kingdom's name.
He took in God we trust out the dollar.
From or to the name Sahali. Another name for the kingdom is the Kingdom of Flowing Sands, but I digress. Not long after Buddhism was banished, the drum was beat at night just like it was all the other nights, but this time it summoned a giant beetle Yao Guai king known as Fuban, which we can fight in the game by traveling to the past. Fuban the angry beetle would rain terror over the kingdom of Sahali every evening, since they would have to summon it every time the drum was beat. And as the giant monster destroyed their buildings and devoured any poor souls unfortunate enough to be caught in its path, the people began to believe it was their karmic retribution for their king outlawing Buddhism. I also believe that this beetle monster was sent as retribution for a reason that I'll get to in just a sec. This made the fearful king reverse his banishment of Buddhism in hopes of undoing this beetle curse, but to no avail. The beetle kept coming and was essentially indestructible. None of Sahali's forces could even lay a scratch on its impenetrable armor with swords or arrows as it laid siege to the kingdom night after night. And
now one thing I would like to know in more detail, because I can just tell that there's crazy exaggerations with not just power but abilities per character, right? I'm sure the toughness of this beetle's outer skin just has some actual layers to it as to how you're just not getting to hurt this thing if you're not Wukong, right? I just want to know scale wise in the most detail possible, what is Buddy rocking on his back, or just even his skin? You know,
according to the yellow-robed squire, spread fear of the kingdom to merchants and even
just from the last video, so many characters. Not even the last. I'm thinking of something else. Anyways, I'm sorry.
It's at this point that the yellow rat Gwai sensed the great power of Fuban and approached the kingdom of Sahali, deciding to defeat this beetle and harness its great power for himself. Although to the people of Sahali, it seemed like he simply saw their struggle at the hands of the beetle monster and decided to help them out by defeating the beast himself because he's just a good Samaritan like that. However, strangely enough, when the rat tried to fight fight the monster, he noticed that the beetle was somehow completely immune to his Samadhi wind. And since his Samadhi wind is magical, he realized that it must mean the beetle was in possession of some kind of anti-magic charm that countered the power of his wind. This is when the rat meets the Destined One, who bested but did not kill his servant, the Tiger Vanguard, in order to approach him. And fun fact, if I understand this correctly, this event is actually before the rat and Tiger Vanguard meet Sun Wukong in the novel, meaning the rat actually met the Destined One prior to meeting Sun Wukong, but we'll get to that in just a bit. The Destined One then aids the rat in defeating Fubon by siphoning the charm out of the Buddha head on Fubon's back, which, as I mentioned earlier, to me implies very strongly that this beetle was sent to the kingdom of Sahali as retribution for forsaking the Buddha, who saved him. After all, why else would a giant Buddha statue head that looks exactly like the head of Bodhisattva Lingji, that contains what is likely the very same wind tamer pearl that the Buddha gave to Bodhisattva Lingji in the novel, be attached to the back of a giant beetle Yao Guai?
That's a crazy concept, bro. It's like you ban that religion, and the religion
came to you.
they spin in the block for doing so. That's actually nuts. Yeah, okay. I mean, that does. I can see that. That makes a lot of sense. And that beetle just seems like the perfect what's you called the counter to everything, the weapons that they have there, and just more so if it wasn't for Wukong, they're just all getting fucked up, like hands down, bro. Like it makes a lot of sense.
Destroying this particular kingdom, which just so happened to turn its back on the Buddha after being saved by him. Anyway, after the wind tamer is removed from the beetle, the rat and Destined One fight side by side to bury Fubon,
which was a fire moment
once again and for all. The Destined One then left this time period and returned to the present, while the Rat Guai was recognized by the King of Flowing Sands as a great hero, and at this point was officially given the rank of Royal Sage in the Kingdom of Sahali, and would become the king's closest advisor and beloved hero of the people of Sahali, who would come to worship the sage directly instead of Buddhism. Shortly after this, the Yellow Sage advised the king to issue
a edict. So that moment created a whole new religion, basically, and I think this is how the hierarchy happened, with the rats were then on top because he took all the credit.
Known as the Rodent Reverence Edict, which essentially declared
the rat is low-key Hercule. Like, not fully, because he did fight, but like he didn't really do all what I did. So I don't know.
As celestial beings and made them protected by the law of the king. This resulted in many rodent guais from all over the place migrating into the kingdom and living among the humans as equals. However, not everyone was behind this edict. Several scholars of the Royal Academy, as well as the king's first son, the first Prince of the Flowing Sands, who we also fight in game, and who also had shown great acts of heroism in the battle against Fubon, and who was also given a new title of Brave General, did not appreciate all the rat guys running around and even began to become jealous of the Yellow Sage for stealing all his glory and sidling up to his father the king, especially since the sage was a rat guai and not a human like the first prince. Oh, did I fail to mention that the king and his sons used to all be humans, not rat guais? Yeah, we'll get to that in a sec.
Okay, so that's something I kind of was thinking about too, because we then seen what happened with the boar friend, the boar pig friend. I don't remember his name top of my head, but we know he was once human. So I then thought, or started to think back on how many characters we met that were like this, that also were human once upon a time. And that, like, I can see it, because their relationship, their parental bond wasn't really on the, like, I mean, what do I know about a rat demon? This is my first, like, understanding of what that would be depicted as. But it was seeming very much more human-like than, like, I don't know, they're trying to portray to me like it's always been them looking like this from the jump.
At it, the second Prince of Flowing Sands, who is also a boss in the game, is the king's second son, and there's not much else to say about him. He's the slow one,
bro, the forgotten one,
least favorite, but makes up for it with a really big hammer. Anyway, the first prince began to despise the sage so much that he rallied some other court officials to petition for the removal of the Yellow Sage from the kingdom entirely, which led to several upheavals breaking out, even resulting in bloodshed and the death of many of the prince's people. And all of this political savagery upset the youngest brother, the third and final prince of the Flowing Sands, so much that he straight up left the kingdom entirely, and we may or may not meet him later in the game. Anyway, this did nothing to change the king's mind about the sage, but things came to a head when, on the sage's birthday, the entire kingdom began to worship him at his statue. Even the king himself went to the sage's temple and offered incense and prayers directly to the rat. Keep in mind that this is the same king that isn't even a Buddhist. The first prince was so angered at this that he stormed into the temple and flipped over the incense table, which of course was seen as a sign of utmost disrespect towards a royal authority. This led to the very upset king imprisoning his son, the first prince, but despite all of this, the Yellow Sage actually spoke well of the prince, which the first prince took as an even greater sign that the sage is deeply conniving and deceptive, and began cursing the sage incessantly incessantly declare that the prince be disciplined strictly, with meal restriction, absolutely no visitors ever. Without the prince's
Damn,
backing,
bro.
those who opposed the rodents of the kingdom quieted down, and the people resumed their worship of the rat sage. After this point, mysteriously, the kingdom of Sahali began to undergo an irreversible change. Its people had all been turned into rats. The specific reasoning for this transformation is left up to interpretation, but the Yellow Sage appears to know the reason behind it, since he claims that the rat transformations were a calamity that he himself brought upon the people of Sahali. In my opinion, the
brought it
rat
purposefully.
transformations took place because of yet another punishment from the Buddha, or perhaps more specifically, the Bodhisattva, since the people of Sahali yet again turned away from their worship of Buddhism to worshipping the rat sage and his rodents instead. But like I said,
Damn.
I
So
believe
now the Buddha's being petty. So it's like, bro. So this how you want to act? Like we sent you the first warning. So what? You got rid of it. You still want to be a rat, and then like talk about this other dude. So you wanna praise a rat so bad? We'll just make you rats. Okay. I see. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Explicitly confirmed in game. Now, in the novel, the Kingdom of Sahali and the Yellowwind Ridge are two separate locations that assumedly were decently distanced from one another. And this could still be the case, since the way we enter the Kingdom of Sahali in-game is through a magical portal to the past. But it could also be that the devs literally combined the two kingdoms into one game. Either way, eventually the Yellow Sage, his Tiger Vanguard, and the King of Flowing Sands along with his now Rat-Gwai people all came to live in the Yellowwind Ridge. However, when the sage arrived, not only were there already villages with villagers living there, but he also discovered an entire populace of Rock-Gwais living in the mountain, led by two powerful main Yao-Gwais known as the mountain deities. The first of these deities was called the Mother of Stones,
I forgot about her,
who was made of a blue quartz with the...
Oh, so Mother of Stones. So that was the mother. She was more like average, I guess. And then, or like middle. And then we saw the sun. The sun was literally chilling. Like he was like a happy little rock boy. He was just chilling on the edge, looking off. And then Wukong beat him for no reason, or Afro did. And then the dad, that thing was ginormous. He didn't even die. He got knocked out and got back up. He broke off all his rocks and gems. He really should have killed Wukong, but I guess he couldn't. Wukong beat him for an eye on his back. Which could have just flew up there. I think at that point he had the Nimbus. I'm not sure. But yeah. Crazy.
Unique ability to absorb the essence of the moon, and as such became sentient sooner than any of the other Rock-Gwais. The other mountain deity was a Yao-Gwai king, the Father of Stones, also known as Shingandang. These mountain deities were leading the rest of the Rock-Gwais in combat against one powerful Rock-Gwai in particular that we do not see in game, that had become enormously powerful after absorbing strange, sentient Buddha heads made of flesh that popped up out of the ground and would scream at people who passed by and even eat them if they got too close.
That's terrifying.
Nah,
bro. If I'm walking by and a statue screams at me, I'm dead. Like, I'm just dead. I'm dead. But I'm hearing room for DLC. There's another Rock-Gwai that we haven't seen that seems to be like another Egyptian god card amongst the other bosses that we've seen. I'm seeing it. I need it.
Sprout a Buddha rock head on its body, becoming stronger and stronger until no other Rock-Gwai could withstand a single punch from it. The battle was not going very well for the mountain deities though, and the Mother of Stones had sacrificed much of her precious blue quartz, which was ineffective against the mighty Buddha-headed Stone Gwai. But just as the Mother of Stones fell to the ground in despair, the Rat Sage appeared. Apparently moved by a sense of righteousness, the Yellow Wind Sage decided to assist the mountain deities in their fight against the evil Rock-Gwai. He rallied the mountain deities together and asked for the help of the Keeper of the Mountain, who refused to do anything but sit safely on the sidelines. Not that this really mattered though, since the Yellow Sage and co. were quite successful in not only destroying the evil Gwai, but also eliminating all of the weird fleshy Buddha heads that sprouted up all over the place. The rat then extracted the essence from the evil Gwai and divided it between the two mountain deities, which gave them both great powers and transformed them into very humanoid-looking figures with human hearts, known as the Essences of Stone. Together, the Father and Mother of Stones used their new powers to create newer, better Stone Gwais, one of which in particular was larger and stronger than all the others, which they decided to call the Son of Stones, who would eventually become known as the Stone Vanguard.
Bro, buddy was weak as hell.
Also encounter in the game. The
Keeper
got of the Mountain,
freaking dogpiled by other guys.
Stone Yao Gwai chief boss in the game, was not awarded any of the stone essence since he really didn't do anything in the fight. But after seeing how powerful
that's
it made
why
the
he
other
was
mountain
like that.
deities, it made him so jealous that he ended up trying several different attempts to steal the stone essence that was given to the Mother of Stones,
Oh.
including even going so far as to try to disguise himself as a poise stone, one of the Mother of Stones.
That's why he
daughters,
looks
and
like
approached
that.
the Mother of
He was-
Stones stealthily,
Oh.
attacking her and springing upon her, trying desperately to absorb her essence before her underlings could get him off of her.
I am playing New World for the
Hey.
first time ever with the boys.
I got this, boys. Stand back.
I am raining
not
hellfire.
care.
Good teamwork.
don't
Oh my
care.
God, what the hell is that?
So download now on Steam, Xbox, or PlayStation 5.
To his dismay, she screamed, alerting the other Stoneguys who got to him before he could complete the absorption, halting him halfway. And to his dismay even more so, he had absorbed just enough of the stone essence to transform his body into a stone, sealing him within his half-rock disguise forever. Then the Stoneguys,
wow.
including the Stone Vanguard, pummeled him into the ground, where he stayed until meeting the Destined One, who then has the option of killing the Mother of Stones, absorbing her stone essence, and giving it to the Man in Stone, who believes it to be able to transform him back into his human form. After which the Destined One just beats it back out of him, and he then turns into a vendor for the rest of the game. But anyway, after the Mountain Deity's
Yeah.
victory over the Buddha head
He
event,
puts that in such a sad way. I forgot he was
Yeah,
even
he
a
tried so
vendor.
hard.
I should actually go back over there before I finish the game to see what he sells. I forgot about dude, bro.
Yeah.
the Yellow Wind Sage was once again heralded as a great hero by the mountain dwellers and settled down in a cave to live alongside his Tiger Vanguard, the
Yeah.
Tiger's 2 sons, the King of Flowing Sands, his 2 sons, and the rest of the Sahali rat people. Eventually, Sun Wukong's trio passed by and came into contact with the old Tiger Vanguard,
Wait,
who had
yeah,
been
it
tasked
was
with
easy.
scouting the mountainside in order to find some food for
Mad
his master,
Tiger,
the Yellow
worst
Wind
one,
Sage.
I think.
The Tiger Vanguard was determined to kidnap the monk in order to cook and eat him, which is kind of a theme with a lot of the different Yao Guais in the novel, since a lot of them believe the monk's flesh to be able to grant powers or immortality, but found himself in combat against the incredibly powerful Monkey
Say
King
monk
and his
instead of
pig
monkey?
friend Zubatie, who readily told them exactly who they were and what their purpose was. As the fight intensified, the trio moved further away from
That's
the monk who had
crazy.
stayed behind.
What-
But then the
wait,
tiger
what
pulled a fast
chapter?
one and
So, if you are actually Wukong or Black Myth, let's say like they're actually defeated somehow, some way, they let someone, or they actually lose somehow, they can take their whole immortality, like person they lost to can take their power and their immortality. That's actually wild. I didn't even know that part. But I mean, they're immortal. So even if in trying to take it, how long would that take? Like, because we know Sun Wukong could just take out a whole bunch of his hairs and just they would have to kill all of them, and then they could take out the hair. So nah, they would literally have to let someone like that they want to live, or they just don't want to live anymore.
in a dust
Are you with the pig again? I'm trying to remember. Was he? The pig wasn't always there, right? I don't think the pig was with us in chapter 2. I think in chapter 3, that's when he met up with us, I believe.
Storm ripped his own chest skin off and placed it on a nearby rock as a distraction, then hurried
wow.
back to steal the monk away, which ultimately was successful. When the tiger returned to the Wind Sage and told him who he was, the sage refused to eat him immediately, knowing that the monk's infamous monkey might show up demanding a fight. This proved accurate,
He
and
knew
Sun
he was gonna
Wukong
lose.
did in fact appear soon after this at the mouth of the cave, demanding to fight to return his master. The Tiger Vanguard then came out to accept the monkey's challenge, which ended with him running away from Wukong, only to be cut down and killed by Zubatie's nine-toothed rake. Wukong then sent Bajie back to tend the
Bajie,
horse and returned
the pig.
to the cave of the Yellow Wind King to retrieve his master. After a very intense clash between the Monkey King and the Yellow Rat, the latter blew his Samadhi Wind directly into Wukong's face, which didn't kill him since he's one tough son of a bitch, but instead blinded him and caused him to retreat. Long story short, soon Wukong was healed by one of the immortals tasked with assisting the journey to the west, after which he returned in mosquito form and spied on the Yellow Rat within his cave. Overhearing that nobody can beat his Samadhi Wind except for his old master, Bodhisattva Lingji. Wukong then traveled to Mount Sumeru and enlisted Lingji's help in defeating the Yellow Rat, who knew exactly what to do. Bringing with him the Wind Tamer and the Golden Long Staff, he returned on Wukong's cloud to the Yellow Wind Ridge and had Wukong lure the rat back out of the cave. After the rat emerged and engaged in combat once again with the Monkey King, the Bodhisattva took him by surprise and hurled his his golden long staff at him, which transformed into a golden dragon that snatched up the yellow rat and slammed him against the mountain rock side, doing
Damn,
so
bro.
much damage to him that he de-transformed back into his original yellow mink form. After this, Lingji took the rat back with him to Mount Lingshan, and the Wukong trio reassembled and moved on past the Yellow Wind Ridge.
Okay, so far, I'm not gonna lie, it's very hard to rate a lot of these bosses because this storyline is so ongoing. So I'm gonna wait till the end to give a rating. I'm
Yeah,
locked in, bro.
actually,
I'm like
yeah,
immersed
yeah.
by this. So it's like I'm not saying a lot because I'm just like invested in
Hey,
it. I think
I mean, we've
towards the
already
end,
watched
maybe when everything wraps up, I
Might
kind of understand where we're going.
To understand.
Ed,
Let me
his
see if
two
I'm
children
close to being right with the tigers, if anything.
were
though.
left to raise themselves alone. Since they were tiger guais, they were naturally more powerful than any of the other guais in the area and became their
That
leader,
guy was
Yes.
the
crazy.
older brother leading the rock guais of the mountain. The elder tiger
Oh,
abided
okay.
strictly
He looked
by
like
a
crazy.
moral code,
He
pledging
looks
to only
like a-
devour evil and
image
protect
of a
those
tiger.
who are good, which earned him the reputation of being a deity in the mountain. The villagers of
Okay,
Yellowwind
okay.
Ridge came to love the
I didn't get that vibe from that one. Out of all of them, he seemed the one who was on the more crazier side, and he seemed to have those
Let me go
only
back. I was
developed
talking. I was yapping.
powerful than any left to raise themselves alone. Since they were tiger guais, they were naturally more powerful than any of the other guais in the area and became their leader, with
Yes.
the older brother leading the rock guais of the mountain. The elder tiger
Oh,
abided
okay.
strictly by a moral code, pledging to only devour evil and protect those who are good, which earned him the reputation of being a deity in the mountain. The villagers of
Okay,
Yellowwind
okay.
Ridge came to love
I didn't get that vibe from that one. Out of all of them, he seemed the one who was on the more crazier side, and he seemed to have those rats whipped as well too. Like they had to bring him
Not a
meals
great
on the
guy.
clock, and I don't know what those meals intended, or not intended, but
See,
what those meals like were. But I can't imagine those were all just guilty people, guilty by his terms. Those that just seemed like a pool of blood that he needed to he's hungry. That's all that's what I gathered from that.
and even created the Crouching Tiger Temple in their honor,
When he pulled
offering
up,
tributes to the
he was like,
tigers,
"You
which in
did
turn
that."
made the tigers treat
Yeah.
them even better. However, since the elder tiger, the vanguard, was the face of the Tiger Brothers and the leader, this made the younger brother begin to feel envious of his older brother's renown. Believing in his heart that his older brother was no more worthy than he was, he simply lucked out by being born earlier. At the same time, the Rockwise were experiencing a
'cause
little
that younger
drama
was
themselves.
crazy. He must
The
have
father of
all them
Stones
skills.
left the mountain unexpectedly, and the son of Stones went out to try to get him to come back, leaving the mother of Stones behind in the
What in
mountain
the stone?
alone. Because of this, she began creating more Rockwise than ever before to protect herself and the mountain she loved. This
Okay.
part is left up to interpretation, but I believe the Father of Stones left the mountain and followed in the footsteps of the old evil stone Gwai that had absorbed all the Buddha heads, somehow undergoing a similar transformation and becoming the multi-Buddha headed Shigandang that we see and fight in-game. It also appears that
Homie
the
was
Son
running.
of Stones fought his father and was able to bury him in the ground, keeping him sealed, then returned to guard the entrance of the mountain where his mother resided. A century passed, and the Yellow Wind Sage then returned to the Yellow Wind Ridge, back in his full Rat Gwai form, but this time with the head of Bodhisattva Lingji under his arm. This happened
Yeah,
after the defeat of
leveled up.
Sun Wukong, when the Yellow Rat was given the Fuming Ears relic. Just like the Black Wind Bear before him, the rat could also not figure out how to cultivate the relic's power from within his own body. So
No,
he
person.
tricked the Bodhisattva and successfully decapitated him, hoping to use his master's head as the vessel for channeling the relic's
Like
full
the
power.
like a
His
conduit.
plan at this point was to cultivate strong Samadhi winds in the ridge, sealing himself off from any interference while he attempted to unlock the relic's full power. Once the sage returned to the ridge, several things happened. The King of Flowing Sands and all of his rat people once again rallied to the sage's side, along with his
I'm lost. So I'm not sure if the yellow rat or the bear ripped off his ear, but I think it's the yellow rat. He had
second son, since his first was not only still imprisoned, but had also gone mad. The Tiger brothers, on the other hand, were not happy to see the sage return, especially the younger brother, who still blamed the rat for the death of their father, the hands of Zubagia, over a century ago. The Mad Tiger then urged his older brother to join him in not only driving out all of the rats from the Yellow Wind Ridge mountain, but also in straight up slaying the Yellow Wind Sage. But as I'm sure you
Oh,
could
wow.
probably guess, they were absolutely no match for the sheer power of
Oh,
the
yeah.
sage. Especially now that his power was being fortified by the Bodhisattva's severed head. The younger tiger
Yeah,
was
'cause he's a
knocked
lot
out
stronger.
immediately, and just before the sage landed the killing blow,
With using
the
the
elder
relic
brother
with the head.
cast down his weapons and knelt in surrender to save his little brother's life. The sage, who has always been weirdly very forgiving, immediately forgave both of them, understanding where their anger came from, especially once he heard that they blamed him for their father's death. He even granted the older brother the official title of being the new Tiger Vanguard, and even though the older tiger did truly hate the sage, he still accepted accepted because he was no fool and knew that the alternative would mean death for him and his brother. However, when the Mad Tiger woke up and learned that his older brother not only surrendered to the sage but also accepted his invitation to serve him, he couldn't believe it, and the two of them argued bitterly until the Mad Tiger finally stormed off, destroying the last ties of the Tiger family once and for all. The sage also tried to check on his old pal, the mother.
So when one of them decided to join the sage, it caused friction and destroyed the hierarchy they had once they all split apart. That split in its own is kind of what allowed the rats to really be on top at that point in time. Okay.
I don't think the rats should be on top at all.
It's interesting though, because I guess the sage was depicted in a manner when we first met him in the past, where I can kind of see him being on the benevolent, like on the fake nice, or even if that's actually him side. But like when you fight him towards the end as the final boss, homie seems like cracked out, or maybe I'm misremembering. Like I can't imagine him, like, I don't know, like doing half the things he did with the tigers.
By the Son of Stones at the entrance to the mountain, which the sage initially took as a threat, ordering the Tiger Vanguard to eliminate the powerful Stone Gwai. However, since the Tiger and the Son of Stones went way back and literally used to run the mountain together as mountain deities, the Tiger instead made a deal with the Rock Gwai, convincing his old friend to just join the Tiger and Sage's forces instead of fighting against them and focus solely on guarding Shigandang. And he also advised the Son of Stones that the Yellow Sage could kill them both if he wanted to, so it was probably in their best interest to just comply.
So now I'm confused. I'm thinking about this. So in the final chapter where I'm in now, in the last video that I've done, I think too, there was a stone child that was chilling that I beat up. And in prior videos and outside of this area, level 2, whatever, excuse me, I've killed other stone enemies. Are they all connected, interwebbed in like a family tree, kind of like the toads and the dragons? I think I just home wrecked, like, for real. Now I'm thinking about it.
Stones agreed to this.
I know that this is connected.
I'm so happy that he.
And the next day, the Yellow Wind Sage appointed the Rock Gwai his new Stone Vanguard. Also, as a fun fact, you can actually make the Stone Vanguard fight against Shigandang if you summon Shigandang while the fight with the Stone Vanguard is ongoing. After which, of course, you can kill them both. Anyway, the Tiger Vanguard then lived out his days in servitude to the Yellow Rat, even though he secretly hated him, venting his anger by devouring some of the Sage's rat people every day at the Crouching Tiger Temple, breaking his moral.
You know what I realized? So it makes sense why the Tiger Vanguard was so easy to like find during the main path, and why he was not too far away from the Sage. It's because he was the one that followed the Sage. So like he's a part of the main path. Whilst the other ones, they just split off. So when you go to the past, wherever that area is, I don't know if they all are in the secret area, but like that's why they're on diverging paths that are away from the Sage's direction.
Never devoured.
That's fire. That's fire.
His younger brother had stormed off to the nearby village of Windrest and was living at the bottom of a well just outside the village, where he would practice his fighting techniques and roars. One day there came to the village a father and his sickly son. The father was a mighty swordsman who had forsaken his fighting days due to falling in love with a woman. He married her, and together they had a child and lived happily in a city nearby. However, terrible winds started stirring up one day, and they caused his wife to become very ill and eventually to pass away. Their child also began to succumb to the same illness. However, the man had heard of a Bodhisattva Lingji who could cure this wind sickness, but upon reaching the Mount Sumeru, discovered that the Bodhisattva had left to the Yellow Wind Ridge but had not yet returned. Desperate to save his son's life, he and his son arrived at the village of Windrest, but to the father's dismay learned that it was also right beside the source of these terrible winds, making his son's condition even worse by the hour. One day, while the man was searching high and low for the Bodhisattva, he heard a tiger's roar coming from a well. Finding this strange, he climbed down this well and discovered the Mad Tiger, who was still nursing some of his wounds from his fight with the sage. While they talked, the swordsman explained his son's illness and their reasoning for coming to Windrest. The Mad Tiger then had the bright idea of pretending to be his brother, the mountain deity, Tiger Vanguard, and the one who the Crouching Tiger Temple was raised in honor of. And when the swordsman asked the other people of the village if this was true, they confirmed that it was, as they had no idea he was talking about the younger brother and not the actual Tiger Vanguard. However, the Mad Tiger decided to go all in with his impersonation of his elder brother, and once the swordsman was done telling him of his sickly child, claimed that he, as a deity, could heal the young boy. This caused the swordsman to lower his child down into the well, where the tiger verified that the sickness was indeed caused by the dangerous Samadhi wind. He had a magical gourd that his older brother had given him to treat his wounds, and on a whim suggested that the boy drink from this gourd, claiming that it would heal him. Upon Upon
Okay,
drinking the
W.
water from the gourd, the boy actually did start to get better, speaking once again and praising the mad tiger, calling him the tiger god. The
I'm about to have one with
so-called
them, though.
tiger god was ecstatic and finally found respect and satisfaction from helping this father-son duo. So he instructed them to come back every day in order to have the boy sip from the gourd. However,
boy's gonna
the mad
die,
tiger
bruh.
also grew hungry and told the father that he
even
too was
worse.
affected by the Samadhi wind and the
Even
only
worse.
cure for his ailment was the flesh of the living. Even though the swordsman was very reluctant to grant the tiger this wish, the image of his son being healthy and happy once again was all he really wanted. So he purposed in his heart to do whatever it took to achieve this goal and began tricking some of the villagers to follow him down into the well, where he would feed
Bad
them
Tiger's
one by
S
one
tier.
to the mad tiger god.
Oh, that's gas.
For a while, things continued on this way, making the boy much healthier and the mad tiger much less hungry. The tiger even straight up gave his magical gourd to the boy entirely to take with him, trusting them
chill.
to return day by day and deliver villagers for the tiger to
They're
eat.
not.
But one day they stopped coming altogether,
Yeah,
leaving the mad
dummy.
tiger confused for several days following until he decided to venture out of the well in order to figure out what was going on, where he discovered that the entire village had been slaughtered mercilessly by a vengeful blade. At the entrance of the village was a single coffin. Inside this coffin was the corpse of the young boy, still wearing the tiger's gourd around his neck, having been beaten to death by sticks. It turns out
What?
the villagers had figured out that the swordsman was leading
was
them to
feeding
their
them
deaths
to the-
at the bottom
oh,
of the well.
no,
But instead
bruh.
of confronting the father about it, they decided to take their revenge by
And kill
beating
them
his
both?
child to death with
Oh
sticks
my
and rods as revenge
gosh.
for their murdered neighbors. This led the swordsman, now known as the tiger's acolyte, to once again draw the sword that he had sealed away due to falling in love.
Oh, that's S. He's S. He's S. They're both S. Now, okay, bro, the tie-in to this dude, I'm over here thinking this is like one of the Myth Marvel characters you're just never gonna see. That's gas. That's gas. That's gas. That's gas. That's gas. Absolutely gas.
With everything
S
taken
tier.
from him, he
S
cut
tier.
down every man, woman, and child in the village, then set out alone to wander for the rest of his days, until encountering the Destined One on a bridge. His last words as he meets his end are, "This is my karma. I shouldn't have."
Oh
with all
my
That's why he said that.
gosh.
And
I was like,
once
bro,
he
you
dies,
struggling
he
a
drops
little
his
bit.
son's old rattle drum toy.
Oh
Destined
my
One, and
gosh.
to communicate with the boy's spirit, leading him to the well, where we can encounter and put an end
Oh
to the
my
mad tiger god.
gosh, bro.
Now back to wrapping up the story of the Yellow Sage and his
Oh,
remaining
that
company. The
nah,
Tiger Vanguard
bro,
and King-
nah,
It
bro,
was
nah,
quite-
bro.
it was kinda
That was
quiet.
that was fire. That was
You know the
fire.
story
That
way
that
better.
that alone, we could have just talked about that. That's the video. That's the bit. That's the bit. Not that the S plus, S plus, S plus, S plus. All of them. All of them.
Flowing
All three.
Sands were not getting along, but were still forced to work together at the command of the Yellow Wind Sage. And if it were not for the king's second son, the second prince of the Flowing Sands, and his mighty hammer, the tiger might have just as easily eaten the Rat King. But the king was wise to his eating his fellow rats and was planning on some sort of restoration, which likely meant he was planning on fighting back against the tiger in some way. But before any of his plan was able to come to fruition, the Destined One arrives and eliminates both
Kills
the
him.
king and second prince of the Flowing Sands.
Yep,
After
and the
this,
little
Destined
man
One
runs.
encounters and eliminates the long
Gets
since
big
maddened
son.
first prince. And at
Right.
the very same Crouching Tiger Temple ends the life of the final Tiger Vanguard,
Right.
leaving only the story of the Yellow Sage himself to be wrapped up.
Yes.
You might be wondering, why is it that the rat decided to turn evil?
Yes.
Even though he appears to possess good qualities.
Bro,
That's what I'm
According to
saying.
the journal entry of Bodhisattva Lingji, whose headless corpse, by the way, became none other than the mysterious headless musician who leads the Destined One along his journey, the Yellow Wind Sage appears to have blamed the siege of the beetle monster Fuban and the curse of the rat transformations on Lingji directly, claiming that those who bring disaster on others will have disasters brought upon themselves, insinuating that he opposes Lingji because of the way he disciplined the people of Sahali, believing it to be unfair, possibly seeing his own actions as vengeance. The Destined One finally encounters the Yellow Wind Sage in the middle of the valley as he's in the middle of attempting to harness the full power of Sun Wukong's relic within the Bodhisattva's head, but at long last falls victim to the might of the Destined One and his
Yes.
mighty rod, finally ending the
Easy
story
boss
of
fight.
the little yellow mink
It's an
who
easy
sought
boss
justice
fight.
for the villagers of
He
Yellow
dies,
Wind
he dies.
Ridge.
But,
Bodhisattva's head reattaches to his body and he removes Wukong's fuming ear's relic from his head, giving it to the Destined One instead. And with that, we have now officially wrapped up the explanation and backstory of every single boss in Chapter 2 of Black Myth.
W.
If there was any lore I missed
W.
or got wrong, please let me know all about it in the comments
Hey,
below.
I
And if you're
won't
still
because I didn't miss any of the not miss, but like I feel like you taught me so much. You got it. You got it.
Yeah.
Hey, Bandit, that was fire. But look. Let me
like
talk
a
for a second.
word.
I personally think chapter 2 was weak as hell.
like someone telling
I
you what
think
comic
the
book.
story towards the end was like the best portion, but a lot of those characters, the dog was great. Okay, dog was A tier, and then Mad Tiger the boy and the like, I guess the father tiger, the samurai S plus. Everybody else is kind of like,
I didn't care for the rocks.
like the middle portion wasn't really gripping me.
At all.
I think the only chapter that I might watch from this point on, because I think that's going to be a very similar thing within 3. I don't think a lot within 3 I was that captivated in. And learning more probably wouldn't even get me. But oh wait, no, I need to know Yellow Long. Whenever Yellow Long's in, I gotta spin the block on that one. I think that might be 3. No, that's 5. That's 4. Yeah, 3's the long one. 3. Good luck. Hey, Bandit. Good luck, bro. 3 is a long chapter. He's probably gonna drop an hour-long video. There's just no way. But yeah, Yellow Long, I need to know. And I think chapter 5.
Don't really know about it.
So what is that, like 4 and 5, or is it 3 and 5? I think Yellow Long's 3. I don't know, bro. I'm getting confused. But hey, thanks for watching. I gotta catch this flight, bro. Like I'm doing too much. But yes, I love y'all. And let me know what you guys think down below. Did you like chapter 2? Do you think it's like holding the candle to chapter 1's lore? I don't really think it is, but I think this was still good nevertheless.
Yes, like he said. Oh my gosh. Finally. There's food right here. Guys, I gotta go. My mom said I had to go. I really wanted to stay, but I really gotta go. Sorry. I really gotta go. Yeah, but that was some good information. And I'm like, bro, they made me put my feet up. I'm over here sitting on my feet. I'm still sitting on my feet. I gotta disconnect this because we will not. There's no more history. The next one is literally seeing all about his brother, like the last piece of, well, he said brother in the beginning. Whatever, I don't know that guy's name, but he has the black dog. I'm gonna just call it the Zolo dog, the lightning Zolo dog. And yeah, and then we're done with that little mini series, and then I'll probably just do a whole bunch of short, like little quick stuff, and it will be freaking good. I'm sorry. It's been a long day. I'm not even looking at you. Here we are. All right. And in conclusion, I want to know what y'all think. It was really good learning about that last part. I know I'm extending this part, but there it is. It's just all running through my head. I don't want to leave. But I gotta leave.